Everybody, welcome back to the next episode of Dialing In, and today I'm taking a further look at firmware 3.15 that we received, is it 2-3 weeks ago now? I can't even remember. It's been a while, and it's a really killer update for our Helix and HX Stomp. One feature that I've been really enjoying lately is the addition of the Shimmer Reverb, and I think that was an addition that was very welcome by a lot of Helix users, and I think the folks at Line 6 did a really excellent job with this effect, and it is something that we can really use to add a lot of creative possibilities to our music. So without further ado, let's head over to HX Edit and take a look and see what this Shimmer Reverb can do. Here we are over in HX Edit. I have a little preset put together basically from the template I use. There's no delay, and I've obviously changed the reverb to the Shimmer Reverb since that's what this video is about. I'm just going to turn that off for a second. I do have a volume pedal put in here just because we're going to integrate it in with the Shimmer Reverb a little bit later in the video. And I have the Matchstick Channel 1 amp through its matching cab that comes up with I think I changed it to a 160 ribbon. This is what it sounds like. All right, so we can move on from there. Now, you'll notice I have a couple snapshots set up. I have one called Shimmer, which is going to utilize the new Shimmer effect, but you'll notice I have another reverb here. And that is snapshot 2 called Hall. You'll see the Shimmer effect gets turned off, and I have a dynamic Hall reverb. You might be asking why I have that. Well, one thing I wanted to point out first and foremost as we go look at the Shimmer. Let's look at the parameters here. So we have the type of Shimmer effect, and we have the choice between either luster and sheen, and we'll come back and talk about these in detail in just a moment. We have pitch 1 and pitch 2, intensity, feedback, mix, and pitch balance. Right there, I'm going to kind of consider these the unique parameters of the Shimmer effect. And the reason I say this is if we go to a dynamic Hall and we take a look at the parameters from below the pitch balance, we have decay, pre-delay, room size, either 10 meters, 20 meters, or 30 meters, damping, diffusion, motion, low cut, high cut, level, and trails. If we go over to the dynamic Hall effect, you'll notice we have extremely similar, if not almost exactly the same, parameters. We have decay, pre-delay, room size, which is 10 meters, 20 meters, or 30 meters. Diffusion, damping. We have a mix. The mix is higher up here in the order of parameters, which is not affecting what it does. It's just where it's placed in the list. We have motion. We have a low frequency and low gain here in the dynamic Hall, which we do not have in the Shimmer. And we have a low cut and high cut, level, and trail. So we see that they're extremely similar effects, and we're going to compare them in a second in a special way just to kind of get an idea of what the Shimmer Reverb is doing and what it's capable of. But for now, let's stick over to the Shimmer, and we're going to take a look at what these parameters do. So we have two types of Shimmer effect. We have luster and we have sheen, and I'm going to demonstrate these in a moment. But the luster is kind of more of a traditional reverb pedal type Shimmer. The release notes kind of talk about it as having a tighter definition in what they consider the lustery bits. And the sheen setting is more of a lush studio type plug-in type Shimmer effect with as described, a massive sheeny bloom. So, sometimes those descriptive words don't mean much to us until we actually hear it, and we will hear it in a moment. Pitch 1 is going to set the interval of the first pitch shifter. So this is kind of interesting. We say, well, what is a Shimmer Reverb? Well, Shimmer Reverb is going to be a combination of a reverb feeding a pitch shifter and having that pitch shifter shift the pitch and then feed it back so it continues to be fed back numerous times, potentially, through the reverb, and that's what gives us our Shimmer effect. Well, this Shimmer effect has 2 pitch controls, so we can go everywhere from an octave down to an octave up on either one. We can set them the same, we can offset them, and we can come up with some pretty interesting effects using it. So we have the possibility to set 2 different pitches in our pitch shifter. The intensity control is going to mix the sound of just the standard reverb. So if this is on 0, we're going to be getting basically just reverb without any of the pitch shifting blended in. If we put it all the way up, we're going to get the maximum amount of pitch shifting blended in with the reverb. So it just basically acts as a mix control between the pitch shifted and non-pitch shifted reverb. The feedback control is going to control the number of times that the pitch shifting recirculates through the reverb. So at a lower setting, it's going to recirculate either not at all or at the lowest amount possible. And at a higher setting, it's going to obviously feedback and recirculate many times through the reverb, giving a different effect. The mix, as usual with most reverbs, is just simply going to give us an overall blend of our direct signal and our shimmered effect, right? So that's going to be a useful control. You'll notice I have it at 100%, just so we can hear things in the reverb when we do finally do our comparisons. And the pitch balance is just going to blend how much of the pitch 1 and pitch 2 sound we want. So if we come over here, we have A100 and B100. So A100 being pitch number 1 and B100 being pitch number 2. And we can blend that either all to one pitch or a nice blend between the two, however much we want it. Now, let's come back to that in a moment. Now, let's deal with this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take the intensity all the way down so that we're not getting any blend of the actual pitch shifting into the reverb. And I'm also going to bring the mix down to 50% here. So what we should be hearing here is just reverb. So we hear it doesn't really have any overt shimmer quality to it. Now, let's take those same settings from here down. We'll go 50% on the mix, and we're going to apply that same 50% on the dynamic hall. We're going to have a decay of 20 seconds. Same with what we have over here on the dynamic hall. We're going to take the pre-delay and set it at 100 milliseconds like I have it on the dynamic hall. We're going to go with a room size of 30 meters. Same settings here. Diffusion of 70%. Damping of 3.7 kilohertz, as we have set over here. And we are going to have motion set at 3. Same setting as we have over here. Low cut at 120, high cut at 6.3 kilohertz, like we have over here. Now, snapshot number 1 is going to be the shimmer effect with basically none of the shimmer or pitch shifting blended in. And we're going to compare that to the dynamic hall with those same settings. And we just want to hear if there's any similarity between the sounds. So here is the sound of the shimmer with those pitch shifts taken out. Now I'm going to switch over to the hall, and we're going to listen to the same settings on the dynamic hall. So now let's play those, and I'm going to go back and forth between them. You'll hear how they're quite similar. Obviously, there could be little differences. I'm not saying that the shimmer was basically designed around the dynamic hall, but when we do that, we just realize that the shimmer reverb is just basically a normal reverb. So for that reason, I've done videos about the dynamic hall and so many other reverbs. I'm not going to take any time today to talk about decay and pre-delay and room size and damping and diffusion and whatnot. It's just not the time for it in this video. Let's focus on the unique parameters of what the shimmer reverb actually does. So let's take a listen to this first and foremost. Let's bring this intensity up to 100. And just as a reminder, the intensity is mixing back in all of that pitch shifting. So at these settings, it sounds like this. That's with the first pitch shifter shifting up a full octave and the second pitch shifter going up 7 semitones. And you'll notice the steps here. We can start off just at unison, and we can move up in 0.1 of a semitone increments, which is very cool and can create the possibility of some very interesting effects. So at this here, I would be up 3 semitones, 4 semitones, and so forth. We know that because we get up here to 11 semitones, and next we're up an octave. So 12 semitones in the octave. So basically, if you look at this and we have one with an octave up, if we come to our pitch balance and I come all the way over to pitch number 1, we can hear how it just goes that octave up. If I go all the way to pitch number 2, it's set at an interval of a perfect fifth above or 7 semitones up. And we can decide with this pitch balance how to blend these. If we want them even, or if we want more or less of one of the pitches. So hopefully that's clear. So we've covered the pitch 1, pitch 2. We know the intensity is either going to take all those pitch shifts out, turn it into a more traditional reverb, or we can have maximum amount of the pitch shifting blended in, or we can go somewhere in the middle. So it really depends on how intense we want it to be. For our purposes, we're going to leave it up at 100%. The feedback as well is going to decide how many times that pitch shifting keeps recirculating back to the reverb. So when we bring that down to 0, we don't obviously get as much of that shimmer effect. We hear it there sneaking back in. And obviously there it's at its maximum recirculation. So let's do this now. Let's go up to mix. Go to 100%. So all we're hearing is the shimmer effect. And I'm going to bring the pre-delay down to 0 just so we can hear it immediately. What we want to listen to is the difference between luster and sheen now. So here is the sheen setting. And remember, this is kind of the more lush studio plugin type shimmer effect with a really what they call sheeny bloom. So listen to sort of the end part of the reverb. Switch over to luster. Do you hear how the end kind of dies off? It doesn't have that sparkle and bloom to the upper end. So two extremely different settings. What's going to be the right setting? Well, that's really going to be up to us. One really interesting thing in the release notes that they point out is we could assign control of this to one of our foot switches and be able to foot switch between the two, depending on what we want at a particular time in our song or in our production. So listen again, the sheen. So there's that sheeny bloom. Luster kind of dies out a little more, tighter definition as it's described. It just kind of dies off. So the default settings are octave up on pitch 1 and up 7 semitones on pitch 2, which is up a perfect fifth. But if we wanted to do something kind of a little different, if we went all the way down with the octave down, it sounds like this. A little bit more of an ominous sound to it. But we could also play around with different intervals as well that are going to really change the sound of what we have. And even offsetting by the 0.1 of a semitone can make a huge difference and give it sort of an out of tune eeriness to the sound. The other thing we could do is we could even assign one of these to a foot switch and then control it as we're playing. We could even take that a step further and go into our bypass controller, assign, and maybe set it so that the minimum pitch is an octave down and maximum pitch is set to unison, so we could do almost like a whammy pedal effect within the shimmer. So as you can see, there's a lot of possibilities. Let's just take that off and we'll get it back to our normal settings. So we can play around with the pitch for everything from very beautiful kind of harmonies to very eerie harmonies and dissonant harmonies. And again, that's going to really be up to us what we want. Another really interesting way to use this, you'll notice I have the mix at 100%. So we're not hearing the initial attack of what I play. So it's almost just acting like we're getting almost a synth type of effect. You know, that's because I put the pre-delay down to 0. So I don't have this delay after I actually pick the note. You know, 200 milliseconds or whatever I had that set at. So if I keep that down, I can effectively use the mix at 100% to create more of these synth type effects. But if I came in, say, at a more reasonable 50% mix, added some pre-delay in maybe at 100 milliseconds on the reverb, and again, I have a fairly long decay on the reverb here, I can get some interesting effects now by blending that direct signal back in. I could also utilize a volume pedal before it to control the swells into the Shimmer Reverb as well. So really lots of possibilities in how we can utilize this, but I think really understanding what all the controls do is going to help us to be able to dial it in a way that's going to give us the end results we want much quicker because we have an understanding of those parameters. So it's going to be really something that I can't suggest one particular set of settings. I've kind of shown what each parameter does, and I think that sets us up for each particular situation we're in to be able to look and go, oh, I want this sound, and I know exactly how to get that because I'm very aware of how these different parameters all work. If you do want more questions answered about sort of the bottom part of this, which is very similar to a dynamic hall, you can go watch my dynamic hall video, and I'll try to remember to put a link to that in the description below. So there you have it, the brand new Shimmer Reverb that the folks at Line 6 have given us with the firmware 3.15 for our Helix and HX Stomp. I think it's a really great addition, something that I do know a lot of folks have been asking for a long time, and now we finally have it. We've really been given a lot of beautiful reverbs in the last couple updates, and that's something a lot of folks have been asking for. And like I've said before, I was never disappointed with the reverbs previously, but more now we have more possibilities and more control over them. And I think that's always a good thing. But understanding how all those parameters work is a very important thing to getting the results that we want. So thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope it was helpful in some way. Please like the video and share it with anybody who you think would get some use out of watching it. And also subscribe to the channel. Hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll be back really soon with some more. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in. Ciao for now.